My name is Ricky North, and I just spent the last 7.5 years of my life in a state prison.
Kim and I met Ricky and his family when he was about 8 years old during a Serve kind of project. We came into his house and did some renovations and repairs, and we met Ricky and his brother Robert and his mom, grandma, and great-grandmother. So it was 3 generations of women and these 2 little boys living in one house. We got very close. We did holidays together. We even took Ricky on vacation with our family and just developed a deep friendship. And we made it kind of our personal goal that we weren't going to let these kids go to prison. All right, so this is your old stomping grounds. We're down on 18th Street, and this is where we first met up. And why don't you just talk a little bit what it was like growing up here, what your early years were like?
Yeah, well, I didn't have the average childhood, as you can imagine. You know, as growing up, there wasn't a lot of structure. You know, us kids, we really just did what we wanted to. And really, when I was about 7 years old is when my path to destruction really started. I started smoking weed with family members and such around 7. And, you know, as time went on, I continued in that lifestyle, what surrounded me, what I seen through family, the environment, and neighbors, and everything along those lines. And so as I kept growing older, I kept getting deeper into that lifestyle. So when I was around 12 years old, I got into selling drugs, and around the same time, I started stealing cars. And I went to juvenile placement a few times. And then around 15 years old is when I tried to commit a robbery, and then I went to prison.
So you were just a kid when you went into prison.
Yes.
And you've been in there for the last 7.5 years. And but despite all the difficulties of that upbringing, God really used prison, your time there, to change your heart. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how God used that time?
Definitely, especially first getting there, I was, angry at the world, and I was frustrated. I blamed everybody else but myself, and but while in there, I was still living the same lifestyle. I was still having that mindset for about the first year I was there. And I can recall, as time was going on, God kept drawing me closer to Him. He started putting it on my heart the desire to read the Word and everything along those lines. But I specifically remember a day when I was sitting in my cell, and God started flooding my mind with memories of just the time in prison, how I was fighting and even selling drugs in there, and how God still had His hand on my life and how He was protecting me in spite of my actions. And it was at that moment that God placing those things in my heart and showing me how He was loving me and giving me His grace, made the decision. That's when I made the decision to live my life for Him. And then from that point on, I started to draw closer to Him. I started to take my relationship with Him seriously, digging deeper into the Word, and also, having fellowship with brothers in there, and, going to church, getting baptized, and everything along those lines.
So an interesting thing happened on my side of the story. We knew each other for a long time, but there were some people at Grace Church who worked at the prison. And I had a conversation one Sunday with the guy who worked there that said, I think we know the same person, this kid named Ricky that's in jail. And so I said, yeah, we know each other. And he said, man, he's having a major impact in there. And so that kind of rekindled our relationship, and I came and visited, and we talked sometimes. But not only did God change your heart in there, He started to use you to change the hearts of some other folks in there as well. Why don't you talk about some of the things that you were led to do just ministry-wise in prison, how God used that?
Yeah, definitely. It was an awesome thing and an awesome experience. Some of the things that God was leading me to do in there, He called me to facilitate Bible studies, and eventually I became an elder in there. But one of the ministries that I overseen for a while that had a great impact in there was what we called the monthly giving. And once a month, myself and a couple other brothers would, donate certain things, whatever God laid on our heart, whether it be hygiene products or little food products. And then throughout the month, I would pray, ask God, who did He want to give this gift to, and it was a nice sized bag, which meant a lot to a lot of people in there. And so throughout the month, I would pray, and then God would lay somebody on my heart, and we would ask the individual to come in this room surrounded by a bunch of men, and in that environment, it's not comfortable. They're thinking, what's going on? So we would ask the individual to come in, and once he came in, we'd share with them, this gift right here is from God. He chose you. He wanted to give you this gift, this free bag of food, free bag of hygiene, And we'll tell them, it's free of charge. You don't owe us nothing. You don't have to say hi to us. You don't have to do anything. And we'd give that gift to them. But in the same time, we would also offer them the best gift that you can ever receive, which is salvation. And we'd let them know that God has a greater gift for you if you're willing to accept it. And so we'd talk to the individual about, what salvation meant and what Jesus has done for them. And we also give the person an opportunity to accept Christ at the end. And it was awesome. I think about around 10 people came to Christ through that ministry.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you've been out for a month or so now. What's God been doing since you've been out?
Oh man, it's awesome. Actually, it started before I got out. Towards the end of my stay there, I really didn't know where I was going to go. And, there was not any good environment to put myself in coming out of prison, But God provided an opportunity with you and Kim and the family to allow me to come stay at your house, which had a great impact on my life, just seeing that grace that, God has shown me through you guys. And it also gave me an environment that I could come home and be successful in. But not only that, since I've been home, I got this job, which actually I was told that I had it before then, and with some brothers that come to our church, and it's awesome. I'm learning a lot and also having some great fellowship with them. But then, God is continuously blessing me. He's which is amazing. He's provided a car for me, free of charge, through a family in the church, and that has taken a big burden off my shoulders because I needed a vehicle to travel from work and everything along those lines. But it was awesome. The day that I was given this car, about not even 3 hours later, I get a text message from your wife, and it says, yeah, a friend of yours from prison sent you $1,000 to get started. And I'm like, oh man, I'm overwhelmed. I can't even stop smiling. It just doesn't make sense. And then the Sunday after that, I was listening to the worship, and there was this one verse in the worship that said, God's promises unbroken. And it flooded a memory back into my heart that said, when God said to me when I was in prison, because I was starting to get a little anxious, worried, and how life was going to play out here, how I was going to obtain the things that I needed to survive and go forward with my life. And God spoke to my heart. He said, whether you're in here or out there in the world, I am the same God. If I've taken care of you the time that you've been in prison, I will take care of you outside. And so that promises unbroken was that promise that God spoke to my heart. And He's been showing Himself faithful in my life. And, He's continuously blessing me. I have an opportunity to get my own apartment in this next month. And, it's just unending, and God has been taking care of me.
That's awesome. Hey, one more thing. Today, as part of our services, we're going to do some acts of kindness for prisoners. Can you talk about the impact that those kind of acts can have on guys on the inside, just from your own experience, and maybe, what are some of what's one of the greatest needs that you see for guys inside or guys coming out?
Yeah, to see the love of God in action for especially men in there in a complete dark place it works wonders, especially with, what you guys has shown to me, which is something that I see as the greatest need for the men in there, because there's a lot of good men in there that need a place to go once they're getting released. And a lot of men can't get out because they have nowhere to go. But also what you guys have done with me to help me live, to help me go forward with my life, help me find a job and obtain the things that I need to survive out here is what the men need in there most, I would say. And then also there's some other needs, like I said, it's a dark place, but it's also a lonely place. You're surrounded by people, thousands of people, 24 hours a day, but although you're surrounded by them, it's still a lonely place.
Yeah.
You don't have contact with people that necessarily care about you much, so I think another need for people in there is maybe communication with somebody that actually cares, maybe through letters or visits or something along those lines. That would mean a lot to the men in there, to know that somebody actually cares and they're thinking about them.
Yeah. I just thank you for your story and for what, it's incredible to watch what God's done in your life. And it's a reminder to me again of the impact that God can have even in a place like prison. I think about the potential of not just your life and what you're going to do with the rest of your life as a result of the grace you've been given by God, but the potential for all of those thousands of other guys that have that same potential, and what this world could be like if they were set free by the redemption of Jesus. Yeah. And it's a powerful thing. So thanks for telling your story.
Definitely.